Good morning, Brave Awakened Ones. Veronica of Higher Realm Holistics here, medical empathic intuitive, certified holistic integrative health nurse, spiritual counselor and guide, and author. I wanted to make this video for you guys to talk about a very strange interdimensional experience that I had. I'm just going to say it. I don't know. Try to interpret it, I suppose. I don't know. And it's called The Devil is Going Home. And the reason why I'm calling it The Devil is Going Home, by the way, today's February 9th, 2019, and it happened between, let's say it was around between 2 to 5-ish, around there, a.m. And, it was an interdimensional experience, I should say, interdimensional experience. I was very well aware of where I was. I just could not come out of it until it was time for me to come out of it, until it was completed, I should say. It started where I was myself, and when I walked into this dimension or timeline, I turned into this like between 10 and 12-year-old little white boy. I was wearing a plaid shirt. And I remember looking back, like saying, where am I? Looking back and seeing myself laying in the bed. So I was like, okay. So I was this 10 to 12-year-old little white boy. And I walked into this scene and I was in the country. I think it was Louisiana I was. And I heard a country band playing in like this, it looked like a barn, but it was like a concert hall / dance hall bar, but it was like shaped like a barn. It was very nicely constructed. Like it was made to look that way, very retro looking, but it was nicely constructed. And as I was walking towards it, the band, and was a male voice singing, was singing "The Devil is Going Home." And then as I approached, all of a sudden it was like this horrible energy, like it was almost like a tornado. I think of like the Tasmanian devil. It was like the Tasmanian devil, literally. It was like a tornado. And then he looked like a middle-aged man with dark brown hair, and he was dressed in Western-looking clothes, medium built, and then everyone started screaming, and it was like they were like ready for him, because apparently he's been going from town to town doing this, and he just started slaughtering them, like just like eating them alive and biting them and ripping the people to shreds. And the people are screaming and screeching, and the band is still playing, and there's some people, running inside and closing the doors. And I ran inside. Like people kept they had axes and pitchforks and knives. They were trying to fight it. And I went inside, and the first person I met was this blonde girl. She wasn't a girl. She was like a woman in her early 20s, not early 20s, but in her 20s. Very Reese Witherspoon looking. And she had a number around her waist. And it looked like, it was like a printout, and it was in a plastic baggie so you could see through it, but it was like attached like a belt around her waist. And I said, "What are you waiting for?" And she said, "I'm waiting for my audition." It was an audition for the band. And the guy finished singing, but he was like the leader of the band, running the band, and it almost seemed like he was like the host. And then he's like, "Oh, for this pretty young lady, blah, 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 blah." Oh my God, what was her name? Julia. She told me her name was Julia. So Julia went up on stage, And she started singing this song, and people were like looking away, like, it was mostly men in there. And then the guy was like, oh, give her a chance, give her a chance. And then that dark being came in, and like all the men jumped up and grabbed their knives and pitchforks and machetes and axes, and like they were like waiting for this thing. And they all started fighting it. And Julia was just up on stage, and I was standing on stage. Like, she called me and took my hand, and we're just standing on stage together watching this slaughter going on. And then the guy who was singing before, the leader, the host, whatever, he told Julia to keep singing. So Julia started singing, and that's her voice made that thing calm down, singing "The Devil Is Going Home." And then it stopped and was like bloody, and like its teeth were all sharp, and said, I'm not going anywhere. And then it looked at me like it recognized me. It was really angry. And then I looked at Julia, and she nodded like this. And then I ran off the stage, headed out, and it started following me, like twisting like a tornado. And I kept running and running and running. And there was a church, and I knew I was supposed to take it to the church. So I kept running. I knew it would follow me, but I was like running at super speed. So it followed me into the church. And then when I went into the church, like it shrunk. All of us, like it was there, and it was like, and it was all like, there was people singing. There was a choir there, but the choir was, they were in choir robes. They were how many? There were several choir people, 2 rows of them. But something about them weren't quite human, because they all kind of looked the same. And they were wearing these choir robes, white underneath, but on top of it was like this golden writing, like stitched in, but it was strange shapes and letters that are not regular shapes and letters that I've ever seen in this world, so to speak, on earth. And they were singing something strange. I couldn't make out what they were singing. And then I looked over, and it was like a statue of Jesus turning into Jesus himself, into Yeshua. And I just was like, and then the thing was like getting scared, and it was shrinking. It started shrinking. And then I heard from that statue of Jesus, put it in the holy water. Like it shrunk down to the size where I could grab it and dunk it in the holy water. And it turned like into like a straw version of itself. I don't know. And then Jesus came down, and then it jumped out of the holy water. It jumped out of my hand because I stopped paying attention. I was like in shock when Jesus started walking down, and it came into itself again, but it was just like like that. And it looked at me and said, you'll never get rid of me. You'll never get rid of me. And then Jesus came down, and like as he put out his hand, it started shrinking, but it was like shrieking and doing stuff, and the choir started singing. And then I heard from Jesus call on the Queen of Heaven. So I said, Queen of Heaven. And Mother Mary, her statue turned into a real version of herself. This beautiful white bird is circling me now. Turned into a real version of herself. And wow, that was cool. This beautiful big white bird just circled me and then took off. Beautiful version of herself. And they came down, and then they were like, and then that thing was in the middle. Mary was on this side. Jesus was on this side. And then that thing, and then it's like the people in the audience in the pews were like freaking out. Some pulled out knives and axes. And then Jesus went like that to them. And then that thing was laughing, the devil, I suppose, because I don't know, that's what I keep getting from it. Maybe that was Lucifer. And he said, don't you see everything you do to me, you're actually doing to yourself? And like a couple of people came running towards it. Jesus allowed it. They came running towards it, and they went and like chopped them with the axe. But then all of a sudden the cut appeared on their necks, and they died. And then some woman went and stabbed it, and then the cut appeared on her body, and she bled out and she died. and it was laughing and said, "You can't get rid of me." And then Jesus poured the holy water on it, and it like started shrinking, and then Mary put her feet on top of it, and it shrunk down until it disappeared. And then Jesus and Mary just smiled at me and then dissipated. I went back outside, and then I went back into the barn concert hall, whatever, and Julia was on stage, and this time everyone was cheering her, and she was singing "The Devil Has Gone Home," and I was just like cheering Julia, and then I was back in my body again. That was it. That was the entire experience. And when I came back in my body, my room just seemed so strange. I was just like, wow, this is a, like all of a sudden everything was different. I was like, like, what the heck? And then it took me a while to come to. And then I felt myself going away again. And I looked at my phone, and it was 5:58, and then I was taken away again, and this time I was in a hospital, in a facility, looked like a children's hospital, but the feeling was completely different, and I was me this time. I was me. I looked back at myself, and I was like, oh, I'm me this time. I'm not a little white boy. And then I recognized this soulmate of mine who I had turned down for my twin flame. And I do know him in real life, yes. He is a physician. So I was like, oh, wow, you're here? And I don't know what was going on. I was wearing scrubs, and I think I worked there, but I was there to get him again. Like before, I had gone to a place to get him. And he still had such a sweet heart. Oh, he just has sweetness emanating from him all the time. Always did. I used to tell him, how are you a doctor? So there was something in the ceiling, like the tiles, you see those tiles in the ceiling, and like one of them had children on it, a girl and a boy. Another one had this interesting star and lace. There was lace. And like, he was like, let me fix this. And then it was like, I don't know. A lot happened that I can't even explain. It's like a jumbled mess in my head that I can't put into words. And again, just like before, I was like, funny, I was telling him, not just saying, but showing him what happened right before I came and saw him, the one with me being a little white boy, and the devil is going home. And then he's like, oh, it's okay. And like, as I was telling him, I was resting my head on his lap. We were sitting on a stretcher and my head was on his lap. And then we were just intertwining fingers, and then he started talking. He started saying this prayer that I always say. And then I just remember I was closing my eyes, and I physically felt while I was in my bed him touching my back. And then I opened my eyes and I looked at him, and I finished. He stopped saying it and smiled at me. Then I finished saying the prayer. And I was like, oh my God, it was you? And then I just closed my eyes and just felt such comfort from being with him. And I was like, wow, it was you. And then I was back in my room again, but I still kept feeling him tapping me on the back. Just like, like when you're comforting a baby and you're rubbing on their back and tapping on their back, I kept feeling him. But again, one of the main reasons why I kept my distance from him is because I have this thing about age. And it's like, my age rule has always been no one younger than 3 years or older than 3 years. That was always my age span, and I was kept very close to it. And he's in his late 30s. So I'm like, I'm not old enough to be his mom, but it's too uncomfortable considering I have a 28-year-old and she dates guys in her 30s and her fiancés in her 30s. I'm like, ugh. So I was always with him. I knew how he felt about me. And I absolutely adored him. And I still do. I absolutely adore him. But I was always like, no. But I'm like, well, you know what? If he's the one I'm being blessed with, because my twin flame is, doesn't want to step up, but he will. And he came to me again for a second time. I'm open to receiving him. I'm open to receiving him. And I don't know why I have this feeling that he watches my videos. I don't know. Just like I had no idea my twin flame was watching my videos, and he was. Blew my mind when I found that out. So yeah, interesting. All right, everyone. Very interesting experiences I had. Just thought I'd share with you guys. And anyone interested in sessions, or today I'm having a Reiki tapping healing circle, virtual healing circle. You could pay and register at my website, higherrealmholistics.com. That's today at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Still have time to register. And tomorrow I'm having the Hermetics webinar. You can register at my website, higherrealmholistics.com also. Or if you want sessions, I hold sessions in my office underneath my big copper pyramid in North Miami Beach. Also virtual sessions via Zoom or phone sessions if you're shy, or you don't want to get Zoom. And also I have my book signing coming up in Miami in Kindle. That's South Miami, the largest Barnes & Nobles in South Florida, for my book, my children's book, How the Caterpillar Flew, A Journey of Self-Discovery. And it awakens the hidden potential in the child and the person reading it. Here's an inside look to it. Be doing a nice book signing, story time, and I actually got these posters made for the children to color in the wings of the butterfly the way they see themselves being a butterfly. So that's going on. All right. So Lady V out. We already have the victory. All right. Love you guys, and thank you. Namaste to my Patreon subscribers and supporters. Bye. Mwah. Peace.